Hello and welcome to the Gaggle Wobble Challenge. And if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. And I just want to record a short video on the news today that a court in Bosnia and Herzegovina has sentenced Bosnian Serb President Milorad Dodik to 1 year in prison plus a ban from being president for 6 years. His crime was to act as a representative of the Bosnian Serb people. So it's not like he had his hand in the till or anything like that, but he was acting as the expression of the will of the Serb people of Bosnia and Herzegovina. As you know, the Dayton Accords, signed in 1995, created two entities in Bosnia and Herzegovina. There was the Republika Srpska, largely populated by the Serbs of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and the Muslim Croat Federation, most of whom are actually Muslims. And the Serbs in particular never really wanted to be a part of this republic. They perfectly understandably wanted to be a part of Serbia. This was denied to them by the international community, and which waged essentially a war against the Serbs of Bosnia, and to insist that this artificial entity had to be of Bosnia and Herzegovina, had to be a unitary state, whether the people who inhabited it wanted it or not. But in any case, over the years, and it's now almost 30 years since the Dayton Accords, the powers, the centralized powers, kept growing, because that was the wishes of the Europeans and the Americans. They essentially were never really happy with the creation of these two entities, loosely tied together by a kind of a centralized federal government, and they worked bit by bit to try to fuse these two entities together and to create a stronger centralized government. And the person tasked with doing this is something one called the Office of the High Representative. It sounds very like a colonial position, which is the High Commissioner. So this is the Office of the High Representative, whose task is to keep these two entities united. Now, the problem is that his powers have gradually been increased. So it was never really envisaged at Dayton that the Office of the High Representative could overturn the desires of democratically elected politicians. But that's in effect what happened. So after following the signing of the Dayton Accords, there was established something called the Peace Implementation Council. And according to this Peace Implementation Council, this was in 1997, the Office of the High Representative acquired powers whereby he can overturn the wishes of democratically elected legislators and the wishes of democratically elected presidents. And this the Office of the High Representative has done. And including firing. He outright fired a president of the Republika Srpska, Nikolai Poplasen. This was back in 1998. Now, the problem has arisen that the current Office of the High Representative, a German, is nearly always either an Austrian or German, because the task is to humiliate the Serbs. Serbs have very strong feelings about Serbs and about Austrians and Germans, but that's why the office of the High Representative is always either an Austrian or a German. Anyway, this German really doesn't have any mandate because the UN Security Council has never really approved his appointment. And the Russians and the Chinese have objected to his term in office. And Milorad Dodik, taking his cue from the view of the Russians that the office of the High Representative, the current incumbent, has no legitimacy, has decided he wasn't going to pay any attention to his rulings, and as a result, he was indicted in 2023, and today the court came down with his verdict, guilty as charged, and then sentenced him to 1 year in prison, and then a ban on holding the office of president for 6 years. Now, of course, he's going to appeal it, so nothing immediately happens. But it's a reflection of the thoroughly undemocratic nature of today's Europe, and that he, who is after all an elected leader, he regularly runs for office. The voters vote for him. He is cast as the bad guy, as in some ways the threat to democracy, whereas a bureaucrat, an unelected bureaucrat, installed illegally without any sanction of the United Nations, installed illegally, he is the good guy. He who just simply declares that he knows better what's good for the Serb people of Bosnia and Herzegovina. He's somehow the good guy. So let me just show you a little bit of the media coverage of this event. And here we have this is, let me just have that. Yep. So here we have the Deutsche Welle. That's what you would expect from them. Bosnian Serb leader Dodik sentenced for defying peace envoy. So you can already tell from the headline that this office of the High Representative, again, unelected bureaucrat, he's a peace envoy. So he's obviously the good guy. And he says Milorad Dodik was found guilty and sentenced to 1 year in prison for defying the decisions of an international envoy. And then again, we have a court in Sarajevo sentenced Dodik to 1 year in prison, banned him from politics for 6 years. The verdict came after a year-long trial of Dodik on charges that he failed to obey the top international envoy overseeing the peace process in the Balkan country. And they're saying, overseeing the peace process. The war ended 30 years ago. What the peace process? I mean, he's not supposed. He was only envisaged to be there for about a year, not be there in perpetuity. But that's the way the EU operates. That any bureaucrat, then that office has been created, and it must be there forever and ever. Like it can never end. Dodik, who has said he would disobey any ruling, and his lawyers were not in court for the verdict. The politician is expected to appeal the conviction. And when the verdict was announced in Sarajevo, Dodik was in the Bosnian Serb administrative capital of Banja Luka, where thousands rallied in his support. And now they say, I am guilty, but now people here will say why I'm not guilty. Dodik told the crowd, there is no reason to worry. I have learned to deal with tougher situations. It is important that you are here. Dodik told the crowd that he had spoken on the phone with Serbian President Alexander Vučić and Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, whom he called a friend. He invited Vučić to come to Banja Luka to discuss what we're going to do next. He also said that the Bosnian Serb parliament would vote later on Wednesday to reject the legal proceedings against him. He also said that the parliament would ban the work of the state prosecutor, the state court, and the intelligence agency in Republika Srpska. And then he says here, under the peace agreement that ended the war in Bosnia, The country was divided into two autonomous parts, and then the two are linked by a weak central government under the supervision of an international high representative overseeing the accords. The position is currently held by German politician Christian Schmidt. And then Dodik pushed through two laws in 2023 that had previously been annulled by Schmidt. You notice that he can annul, an unelected bureaucrat can just annul the wishes of the people. By Schmidt, the legislation also refused to recognize the decisions made by the High Representative and Bosnia's constitutional court in Republika Srpska. Yes, because the Bosnia's constitutional court, which itself is a bizarre entity, was created at Dayton, whereby there are 9 members of the court. 4 come from the Muslim Croat Federation, 2 come from the Republika Srpska, and 3 are appointed by the European Union Court of Human Rights. So 3 are foreigners who have no connection whatever to Bosnia and Herzegovina, that which itself is ridiculous, because you have two members of the Constitutional Court who are Serbs, and they are outnumbered by these foreigners who have no knowledge at all of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Chances are they don't speak Serbian. They have no idea about anything in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but they're appointed internationally. Well, such a court has absolutely no legitimacy, and its rulings have absolutely no legitimacy. And you know, its rulings here, when they overturn, this constitutional court overturn the legislation passed by the Republika Srpska parliament, was obviously something that was beyond its remit. The only remit it had were any conflicts between the two entities that comprise Bosnia and Herzegovina. The Dayton Peace Agreement envisages that the High Representative can impose decisions and change laws in the country. That's a lie. That came after the signing of the Dayton Accords. It was the Peace Implementation Council, and which met in 1997 in Bonn, and then granted these powers to the Office of the High Representative. It wasn't part of Dayton. But Dodik has repeatedly clashed with Schmidt and declared his decisions illegal in Republika Srpska. And then here's another story. This is from European Western Balkans. It's one of these ubiquitous Soros entities. The court of Bosnia and Herzegovina convicts Dodik. He declares that Bosnia and Herzegovina no longer exists. And then it says the indictment filed in 2023 accused Dodik and Lukic of systematically undermining state authority by enacting laws that sought to detach RS, the Republika Srpska, from the jurisdiction of the Constitutional Court, and reject the decisions of Christian Schmidt, the High Representative of the international community. So this is a criminal. Imagine, they've criminalized what he did, because he sought to enact laws that were not to the not to the liking of this unelected bureaucrat. The prosecutor's office argued that these laws directly threatened the country's sovereignty and paved the way for the de facto secession of Republika Srpska. And again, why is that so horrific when the very same European and American powers encouraged the secession of Kosovo and Metohija? Kosovo and Metohija seceded in 2008, unilateral secession encouraged by the Europeans and by the United States, and they immediately recognized that secession. But apparently there's nothing that is more horrific and appalling about the idea that the Republika Srpska would secede from Bosnia and Herzegovina. And then here, according to the first count of the indictment, Dodik, in his official capacity, signed a decree promulgating the law and amendments to the law on the publication of laws and other regulations of the Republika Srpska. The National Assembly adopted this law on the 21st of June, despite the High Representative's prior decision to suspend the legislative process related to this law and its decree. So they ignored the command of the High Representative. It's a totally colonial structure, right in Europe. Prosecutors asserted that Dodik was fully aware that the High Representative's decisions were legally binding under his mandate. However, Dodik consistently challenged Schmidt's authority, claiming that the proper procedures for his appointment had not been followed at the United Nations Security Council, and they hadn't been. And then he says, following the verdict, Dodik addressed a rally in Banja Luka, where he launched severe accusations against the court and the judge who made the decision. And then he says here, if you see Schmidt, report him to the police so we can arrest and kick him out of here. He does not deserve to set foot on Serbian land. He should be chased away with stones. No matter what they say, he was the first to commit violence, and I have the right to defend myself. Well, I don't think anyone's going to be arresting Schmidt anytime soon. But the provocation clearly did come from Schmidt. He added that the Republika Srpska police and judiciary will defend and protect the rights of Republika Srpska. I mean, what he's saying is that if there's any attempt by international forces to come in and arrest him, then the forces of Republika Srpska will resist any intervention by NATO or EUFOR, the EU force in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And then says that, yeah, oh, that's right. So I mean, nothing is going to happen for the time being, because he's going to appeal this conviction. But at some point, I mean, if these convictions are upheld, there may well be quite a serious crisis if there's an attempt to enforce a court order and to send him to prison. They would have to go into Banja Luka and fight off the Serbs and try to arrest their elected leader. Again, that's your democratic EU today. That's your democratic NATO today. And again, as you can see, NATO is just a living, walking, breathing provocation and an offense against democracy. Anyway, I just wanted to do a short video on this extraordinary event today in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Anyway, remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye-bye.